Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning. Oh, we've got news. We got so many things going on this morning. The soccer news, bad for the United States. They lose to Uruguay 1-0. Hey, was Uruguay offside on the goal? Yeah, it looked like it. Would it have mattered? No, they needed a win. They didn't score a goal. They barely had any shots on goal. When they had a chance to score, instead of taking the shot, hey, you got to pass your teammate. Ricardo Pepe's right there wide open. You got four guys running at you. Lay the ball off. Get the, decision-making by the United States. So they're out in group play, largely because they lost to Panama, which is largely because they got a red card. And I think this is probably the end of Greg Berhalter. I don't know how quickly, but I expect they move on to somebody else because that's a terrible result. Getting knocked out at home in group play at Copa, that can't happen, and yet it did. I didn't want him hired. I argued about this with Dunny at the time. I just don't think coaches do well in a second World Cup cycle. They have the World Cup cycle. It's time for a fresh voice. And the United States went back to Berhalter, and now it's not going well. And, Bruce Arena is the best thing that ever happened to U.S. soccer. I mean, his first World Cup cycle, he led the team to the quarterfinals. Best result of my lifetime, hands down. They bring him back for the next cycle. I get why. He just had a great result, but they don't get out of group play. And when in desperation they brought him back a third time, they didn't qualify. Now, to be fair, he came in late in that cycle, and yes, Jurgen Klinsmann already dug him a hole, but nonetheless, it didn't go well. They didn't get the result they wanted. And this is the last, you look at the 2018 World Cup, they didn't qualify in 2017. I mean, there have been some good things that have happened in the last 7-8 years, but a lot of the continental success is because Mexico isn't as good. So we'll see what they do. Now, do you want to buy an NBA team? The Boston Celtics are for sale. The previous owners bought in for $360 million in 2002. The Suns just sold for $4 billion. I assume the Celtics are going for more. Boston's a bigger market. Boston has a better tradition. Boston is going to be available at a time when the national TV rights are about to triple or more. So I think they see a payday. I wonder what the number will be. $4.5 billion, $5 billion? I don't know where this is going. To a certain degree, there's a lot of billionaires out there, and there aren't many teams to buy. So it may be more about supply and demand and, buying an elite team. But I expect it'll be a lot of money. Klay Thompson's getting $50 million, 3-year contract. Go to the Dallas Mavericks. I've already had people sending me stuff. Hey, too many shooters, not enough shots to go around for all the shooters. Number one, love the reference. Thank you. I actually think that was about the Boston Celtics. It might have been when the Celtics got Kyrie Irving. But I think the opposite is the problem in Dallas. I don't think they have enough shooters. I think they had to get a third scorer. And I think that's the point where Klay Thompson is in his career where he's no longer the second guy. He's not good enough. But as a third guy, especially if his minutes are declining, he played like 29 minutes, shot about 39% from three last year. If that time declines to 25 minutes, that's still 25 minutes the Celtics need. They had nights they were really struggling to get a third scorer in double figures in the NBA Finals. He's been in the conference finals. He's been in the NBA Finals. He's won championships. So I wouldn't think the pressure of those moments are too big. And it's $17 million per year. With the cap about to go up with the new TV deal, that's totally reasonable financially. So I think the Mavericks had to do this. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think it's the right move. I guess if you want to argue about it, the only thing you say is they could have gotten somebody younger who's better, had more of a, maybe, but I think they can get somebody else in 2 or 3 years anyway. The cap's going to go up in one more. They're going to have cap room then. So, or they can make cap room then. So I think getting Klay was the right deal. I guess you can argue there's somebody else out there and they would have gotten better. Maybe. Do they have playoff experience like Klay does? So, all right, there's some of the headlines going around the world of sports this morning. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Utah Hockey Club with a press conference, Sean Durzi with a contract. We will get to that next. Steve Cleveland on Paul George going to Philly. That's later this hour. Stay with us, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Don't miss your chance to win big every week on The Zone. Tomorrow on Win Tickets Wednesday, you can win a family 4-pack of tickets to the Ultimate Sports Bash at the Mountain America Expo Center on July 12th and 13th. Listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. All right, time now to hear from Bill Armstrong, General Manager of the Utah Hockey Club, Head Coach Andre Tourney, and Sean Durzi with his new deal with Utah HC. Here they are at the press conference.
makes you want to have him a part of your group for the next 3 years, like you had him sign the other day?
There's a lot of reason. Good question. There's a lot of reason, but I will say one thing stand out for me is his competitiveness. Sean is a gifted offensive player, but he's a guy who really wants to defend and be really good defensively. He's willing to block shot. He's willing to do the dirty work. He really wants to win. He wants to compete. He wants to get better every day. So he's a really good player, but he has the character we are looking for on top of it.
Alex, still with the Hockey News. Sean, first of all, congratulations on the extension. Of course, Sean, you got your start in the NHL with the Los Angeles Kings, who are notorious for being one of the most physical, most competitive teams in the league. What kind of lessons have you carried over from your time in that organization to this point in your career that have allowed you to become, as Coach Torini just said, like one of the most competitive D-men on the ice for the team?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for the congratulations. I think my time in LA was valuable for me. I think the biggest thing was the takeaways from the veteran players. Like Coach said, the competitiveness that I bring to my game, I was able to elevate it in certain situations that I was in there, and obviously it's something that they saw in me here, and it's something I pride myself on. So I think a lot of the lessons I learned were off the ice, mentality, things like that, and I pride myself on that.
Matt Coma, NHL.com. Bill, we've been talking about defense is such a high priority for this club. How big was it to get Sean on a new contract for you?
Well, we didn't have any defensemen about 4 days ago, so he was a main priority. We studied him pretty hard. I mean, I knew him from the Owen Sound days and watched him in rookie camps, but watching his progression with LA and we thought, some of the guys that were leaving our team, we didn't have a defenseman that can do what he can do on the power play and bring that offensive flair. So we were pretty excited when we got him last year around this time. It was an exciting moment for us, and we kind of predicted with the guys that we had up front and the young kids coming in and how good we were in the power play, and we went and hired a new power play coach, and we had a feeling that he would generate some offense, and he did that. He lived up to the bill, and I think the special thing about him is, and Coach talked about it, was his competitiveness. We needed that. I think he brings that all the time. I don't think that's something he just shows up in games. He's got it all day, all night, and you see it in practice. He attacks the day, and we needed that to add into our culture and trying to become a championship organization, and he brings that.
Bill, Aaron Schill, Deseret News. How is your blue line depth compared to a week ago?
Well, getting this guy to my right signed, and he's got a wonderful agent, Alan Walsh, and Alan, from the moment we've signed him, I think he's texted me about 1,000 times about where he could progress and get to, and he's been one of the good pieces that we've been added to the depth, and obviously we've added with Marino and Sergachev, and also adding Cole in there today. With all those guys. It gives us some good depth and a chance to be a competitive team next year and take a step from where we were this year.
Sean, Ryan Miller, KSL.com. I'm curious, with those trades, what excites you about playing with the kind of a new blue line this season?
Nice to meet you, Ryan. If you think about where we were last year as a team, the young, talented players we had, just the flashes of what I want to say greatness is, throughout the year for us, with the additions and obviously having some familiarity with, coaches and staff, I'm fairly confident that we can take a step in the right direction. Obviously it starts within, and we knew that even if there was 0 additions that we had to progress, and we were able to progress, but obviously getting the additions that came in, it helps a ton. And it's exciting for myself as a player who wants to win, and I think it's exciting for the state of Utah.
Sean, just touching on the additions of Sergachev and Marino and Ian Cole earlier today. With Sergachev and Cole coming in, you guys are adding two guys that not only won the Stanley Cup, but they won it at back-to-back years, because Cole went back-to-back with the Penguins, and of course Sergachev has been one of the best two-way defensemen for a long, long time. He's he did it back-to-back with Tampa. What are you most excited about in terms of being able to learn from those veteran players that'll help you improve your game as you continue to develop?
Yeah, well, first off, a key thing you said there is, the experience of winning. I think it's pretty invaluable when you think about it, and the only way you'll ever learn is to win. So, and the reason I say that is because, my experience in, 2 playoff rounds, you look back at it and it's, like I said again, it's invaluable. Just so to think about guys who have done it, who have gone all the way, who know what it takes, it's huge. It's something that, Coach Bear talks about culture a lot, and everybody talks about culture, but I think having those guys injected into the culture, it's huge for us, and it's important because culture comes within. Like it's the players, These guys can harp on us as much as we want, but if it doesn't come within the group, within us preaching and guys talking to each other, holding each other accountable, being competitive, it'll never change. So I think having those proven winners, having guys who know what it takes, who've been through it before, it's critical, and obviously, like I said, it's a nice little kickstart.
Coach, just with all the acquisitions over the last couple of days through the draft, through trades, through free agency today, just where are your thoughts on your roster right now as you get ready to prepare for the season?
Well, obviously it's exciting. I think you see the addition. I think what I like about what Bill and his group did, I think we had needs, and we had a huge belief on the player we had internally. We like our group a lot. We like the chemistry in our group. That's a fine.
That's a fine. That's a fine.
We like the chemistry in our group, and we like the player we had. So for us, it was to add to that group, and we had needs to improve our penalty killing. And if you look, every player Bill had the group there, they're really good at killing penalty. They improve our decor. We knew we needed the help on our back end. That job done by Bill and his group. Stanlon will bring a lot of stability, great penalty killer, great on faceoff. So those were not old, but were things we needed to improve, and I think Bill and his group did a fantastic job to really attack our needs and prove we like the rest of the team we had, the group we have and the tool we had. We had a lot of respect for what we had, so that was just to make sure we were shooting at the right place and hitting on what we needed.
Bill's already talked about getting in an Uber in Salt Lake and having fans recognize him and want to take pictures, but what's it like for you two, Sean and Coach, to have been in Utah and your experience so far?
It's been great for me and my wife. I think we found a nice place to live. We're excited. Every time we came here, looks like people are happy, in a good mood. The people are fantastic with us. All the atmosphere is fabulous around the team. That is and in the community as well. I like there's a few people who came to me, talked to me, text me, and people I don't even know. So that's pretty cool to see the buzz around the team.
Yeah, I mean, just picking up off what Coach went there is, right away I think when we got here, the ownership in Ryan and Ashley Smith showed us that what it means to be here, they take pride in it. And I think that's something that every day when we show up to work, we take pride in what we do, and to see that sense of pride in being in Utah, now to carry that over with what we do, it only makes it that much more exciting. And I think, like Bear said, the people, everybody's been so welcoming, the buzz, the excitement. Hockey's meant to be here, and I thought we could tell right away.
Bill, what are your thoughts just on the first day of free agency?
Well, I think we've touched on a little bit. We've kind of addressed some of our needs. There's a synergy within our team that we needed to kind of, add a few little tweaks to it. And Bear talked about it with the face-offs and the penalty kills, and just some players that was kind of their identity. So with the Incoles of the world and Sergachevs and Stenlins, they're going to play a big role, I guess, in some of that synergy, just to kind of make us better, just to take us over that next step that we need to make. And we've got a good young team, and we've talked about the culture a little bit. I think our guys are extremely tight from just what they've been through over the last probably year and a bit. And I think then you bring in the fact that I think some of the guys that we brought in, the Kerfoots and Durzi of the world last year, are going to be even more comfortable this year coming back into the environment and the coaching style that Bear runs. So all those things, we're just hoping to make that next step that we can, and that's important for the group, and we're still a young team. I think at the end of the year, I harp on, I think we're the first youngest team in the National Hockey League. So there's going to be nights that we look like world beaters with the young guys running wild up front, and there's going to be nights that we take it on the chin a little bit. But if we can be a little bit more consistent and take a step with all the penalty kill and just being a little bit more consistent in certain areas, it's going to be a fun year for us.
This is for any or all of you. Ryan Smith has talked about Utah being a winter sports state that didn't have a hockey team. We're in Park City. You're spending the week here. How much potential do you see for the game in this city, in this state?
Yeah, well, I'll go first on that. I think as an NHL team, when you come in here and kids get to be around you in the rink, and they get to be around the team, they get inspired to play hockey, and we can have a huge impact. And I think even with our practice facility coming in Southtown Mall, it's going to have a massive impact in the community of hockey, just providing rinks. When you build rinks and you bring an NHL team here, you're going to inspire kids to play the game, and we're all for that. The one great thing about hockey players is 99% of them are just great people that love to give back to the community, and there's nothing better than they love is to teach hockey and be a part of it. And so that's going to be something we hope we can grow. Number one thing is if we can grow as a team and win, that usually inspires them in masses. So that's the first part of it. Building rinks is probably the second part of it, and we'd love to be involved in the community, and being here in Park City and feeling that cool air in the morning and at night has been just unreal. We've really enjoyed our short stay here.
You want it?
Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, just picking up, off of what Bill said, is growing up as a kid in Toronto, I think getting a fist bump from a hockey guy coming off the ice one day, just that simple action inspires you. You think, these guys are, professional athletes, coolest players in the world, best players in the world. You want to be them one day. You want to be that kind of person. And then you see the work they do in the community. And I think to take pride in that as a hockey player and as a hockey team is really important to our group. It's something that I think, being in the community, inspiring young kids, inspiring people as a whole, just to strive for greatness is really important. And I think that part of it is going to be really, really cool to see the transition over the next few years and to see how the state, the city, everybody reacts and how much better we can make it, being ourselves and kind of providing that inspiration.
I agree. I think Ryan and Ashley talk about it the first time we met them, how much we will write history in a certain way, not in a certain way. We will write history being the first NHL team here in Utah, and I think we'll start to build history in that sense. So I think it's exciting. I think I always encourage a player to think they're a role model. So that will be exactly what they will be here. We have a chance to write the history, and you never have a second chance to have a good first impression. So we want to make sure we do it right.
Speaking of being up here in Park City, you have the development camp going on this week. Just what are your expectations for your prospects in this camp this week? And then your overall reaction to Cole and Tej being a part of this group here? Yeah,
for me, it's more about evaluating the character than the hockey player. I think it's the development camp in the NHL is the middle of your training. It's not a moment you peak in your training. You start your training, and then you have the development camp. So I'm not expecting them to perform in hockey. I'm expecting them to perform mentally, how much they will pay attention to detail, how much they will absorb the information, how resilient they will be, because with the situation you will put them in, they will fail. It's working on a skill where they're not necessarily good at. You will fail. Okay, how would you be with it? Would you be resilient and double up on your focus and be persevere, or you will just say, No good at it. That's what I want to know. We will know the person. Your character is your character. The way you practice is who you are. The way you behave when you're at home, when nobody's looking, that's who you are. That's really who you are. So we want to know who they are.
Sean, Bill talked about this yesterday at Grand America, and I got a chance to talk with Andre about this a little bit as well. How the next step for this team is to start playing meaningful games, getting involved in meaningful games, and being in the hunt down the stretch. Just from your perspective as a player, when you hear getting to play in meaningful games, like, what do you think you have to do in order to help the team, not only play in those meaningful games, but to also win those meaningful games down the stretch?
I mean, it's a process, and I know you hear it all the time, but it's so important to take it that way. Everybody wants to win a championship. Everybody wants to, have 10 Stanley Cup rings, do it all, but it's more than that. It starts, now. It starts with development camp. These kids are going to set the tone, whether it's, on, off the ice, how they're reacting mentally, things like that. But then you go back to it and you hear that saying, we want to play meaningful games. Yeah, we want to win. We want to get there. And we want to do it for a state that's hungry to win. Just from that first interaction we had with them, to see the passion, to see that, hunger for a team to be here. They deserve, a team that's going to win. So I think, like I said, it is a process. It's just not, Stanley Cup or bust right away. Obviously, you got to kind of, build towards that. Meaningful games down the stretch, playoffs, you take it step by step. You learn from every step of the way, which I think is the most important part, is, not just going through the motions, but learning from them. And then you strive to win. But like I said, it's a process. Playing meaningful games down the stretch will help us through that process, will get us to that championship eventually, but it starts with that, and it starts from learning and everybody getting better every day from it.
Jay Stevens, KSL Sports. Bear, I have a question for you about, the GMs go out and they do their jobs, and then this is like Christmas morning for you. You get to unwrap the package and see the players that you've drafted, and you say you don't expect to see them perform right now, but did you see something this morning? I noticed you watching some of the skates. Did anybody stand out to you, and how excited are you about all the pieces you have to put together for this season?
No, honestly, that's not the way. It's important for me to not draw a conclusion on a skating drill or on a goalie shooting drill. The game is way more complicated than that, way more complex, and I think at this point, for me, it's about the person, about knowing to learn those guys. Just had 2 meetings with the 2 group and sharing philosophy, sharing identity, how we want to be, how we want to play, and just selling them in our culture, what we're all about here, what kind of team we are, what kind of player we're looking for. And it's a development camp. It's not an evaluation camp from my side. So I will stay away as much as I can from evaluation, because I've been part of a different program, different thing. But I remember one year I was in the World Junior Camp for Canada, and our worst player during the summer was our best player at Christmas, and he scored a golden goal for us, and et cetera, et cetera. And we all laughed because we had 32 forwards at the camp during the summer, and he was ranked 32nd. And he ended up being our best player, and he has a lot of record for Canada. So summer is summer. It's time for development. It's time for learning. It's time to being around the culture, understanding the culture, becoming a Utah Hockey Club player. That's what it's all about this week. Those guys, a lot of those guys will have numbers of years or months or whatever before they make it to the NHL, and so we will have a lot of time to evaluate if he can turn right, left, and shoot and pass. And no worry about that.
When we come back, we got Steve Cleveland coming up. Stay with us. Steve Cleveland talking about what is the reason that Paul George would go to Philly after Steve was pretty insistent he would not go to Philly. And why does Steve owe people steak dinners? That's next. Stay with us. We're joined now by Steve Cleveland. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, fellas.
Steve, Back in the day, you may or may not have been misquoted by the media. Now, technology's moved forward. We can quote people more accurately, but I'm still a little fuzzy. Did you or did you not promise somebody a steak if Paul George went to Philadelphia and played for the 76ers? I'm fuzzy. Can you clear this up?
Oh, man. I've been thinking about this all morning. I'm not sure who I promised that to. Maybe it was the whole group of guys on draft night. If it is, I will live up to my promise. I knew that was going to be the very first thing you asked me. and I take that because I know their family. I know that I know all the circumstances and situation, and I know the conversation would have been like, no, we're not going to Philly. But at the end of the day, he's there. I'm excited about it. And just give me the names, and we'll figure out how we can Venmo you some money for dinner.
Does that include an appetizer for me?
PK, how many people did he promise dinner to?
Well, he told me, I remember it vividly.
There we go. Let's go to the vivid recollection of Patrick Kinahan.
So I got on the draft coverage the last 90 minutes. It had been going on for a couple hours, I think, by the time I got on. And Lloyd scheduled us in shifts. And so I went from 8 to 9:30. And I think it was during the break. I'm not sure. Maybe it was on the air. But I was sitting right across from Coach Cleveland. And he looked at me, and he said, he's not going to Philadelphia. I'll buy you a steak dinner if he is. And I think, this is where I'm a little fuzzy, I think that he'd already made that proclamation to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. They'll have to speak for themselves when they get in. I think Jake's off today. But Ben, so I know he made it to me, and I think he said, and I told the other guys.
Ben Anderson was a part of it, as was Jake.
Yeah.
Isn't Jake on vacation?
Yes, correct. Correct.
Yeah, it was like a 48-hour deal, or it's null and void.
Nice.
Well, you had but that's for him. You had to wait till obviously league rules stipulated that it couldn't begin until Sunday. So, and I think that the thing here, obviously, to me, is the Clippers were unsure about offering Paul a fourth year, and the Sixers did. So that'll bring him to age 38. So what do you think of the deal?
I love the deal for Paul and the Sixers. I mean, here's the deal. You're right. I mean, he's had some injuries early on at different times in his career, and you get to be around 38, things can happen. But their window is such that the next couple of years, they're in a position to win a championship. And, hey, things have to go right. And obviously Paul would be one of those pieces that could guard a guy like Jason Tatum. And that would be a good matchup.
Yeah.
There are some matchups that having Paul there, he can guard either Tatum or Jaylen Brown, depending on what the circumstances are. He can guard anybody. I mean, he's a versatile guy that can. He's a 3-and-D guy, but he's much more than that. And I think the other thing is that he will be a leader on that team. I mean, I know it's Joel Embiid's team, and Maxi's a young man, but Paul can immediately step in there and really provide leadership. And I think with the coaching staff that they have there with Coach Nurse, I like it. I love it. I can't wait. To be honest with you, I've been to Philadelphia recruiting quite a few times, but I've never been to a game out there. So I called my boys and told them, I said, hey, we're going to Philly next year for a couple of games out there and share that experience. So I'm really excited, despite the fact this is probably going to cost me about $100.
Oh, I'm sure they can find more expensive steak than that. I am curious, though, why you were so dead set and just so sure he wouldn't go to Philly, because I think for a lot of people, just driving around right now, they're thinking, well, Philly is a legit contender. Embiid is a star. 4 years is a lot of years. 200 and whatever million is a lot of money. It does look like a good fit. And I get you're a West Coast guy, you're a California guy, and you're playing in California, and Philly's a long way away. But, man, when you just got a $200 million, you can send a private plane for whoever needs to come out and visit for a week when the Sixers are at home for a week and playing 3 games. So why were you so dead set?
Because I know how much it means for his mom and dad, And you're right. I mean, they can fly his parents out, and Paul can do that as often as he wants. He's got plenty of money to get his parents out there. And to be honest with you, his family. I know that hearing conversations about the family, and being in LA, that's where they're from. That's where extended family is. Those are the reasons. It had nothing to do with basketball. Nothing to do with basketball. It was all about, do we really want to leave here and go across the country and get the kids in different schools and do this and do that. And so that it had nothing to do with the basketball piece. In fact, it's kind of exciting to see what that potentially could happen. And you just hope and pray that for all of them, that people stay healthy. I'd like to see the Sixers team with Paul where everybody's healthy. And it's a matter of, obviously Boston's got the big old target on their back, and they're capable of winning multiple championships. And I don't know, the thing is they picked up Drummond, which gives them kind of another piece to this, and which I think would help. And I'm slipping my mind right now on who else they picked up as well. But I think that it's a great move basketball-wise for Paul, for Philadelphia. They're going to embrace him. And I just pray that they'll stay healthy, because I like this team. I like this move basketball-wise. But everything else before that was just about family and leaving L.A. and leaving good friends and leaving family. And I know how strong moms can be. And, his wife's very involved in this process. And these are difficult, sometimes hard decisions to have. And, we're talking about $200+ million. Who wouldn't take that? But at the end of the day, he's already making really good money. And wherever he went, he was going to make that type of money, except for the Clippers, who were only going to give him 3 years. I don't know if that was what tipped the scale to, hey, we're going to go and get another extra year. I'm not sure what happened. I wasn't privy to any of those conversations. But I do know family's important when you're making decisions like that, especially when you're going across the country. But basketball-wise, I think it's a great deal for Paul, for the Sixers, and I just want to see them be healthy and continue to develop the young guys they have, and have an opportunity to win that Eastern Championship and win an NBA championship.
Yeah, if I'm a Philly fan this morning, I'm excited because I've got a coach who's won a title in Toronto and is widely respected. I mean, he was on the market for about a half hour, and then boom, he gets another job, and he probably had multiple jobs. I've got an MVP caliber player in Embiid, provided he's healthy. He's as good as anybody in the league, I believe. And then you got Maxey, who's a rising star. He's shown that. He's young, and he's going to be getting better. And so Philly's looking at, hey, we got to match up with Boston because there are impediment to getting through to the NBA Finals. So they get a fellow who can guard these guys. And Paul George, I think for years, has been the prototypical NBA player in terms of what you're looking for in length, size, speed, agility, shot making, put it on the floor, whatever you want out of him, he can do that. So you go and they got Oubre too, Oubre Jr. So they've got, and they still have Harris, I think, right? We'll see what happens there. But they've got a roster, a starting unit that looks like they can contend, and I think they picked up Eric Gordon also, too.
They did.
And, he's a veteran guy, obviously, so you got those things going on. And I don't care about 38 because if he helps me win a title in the next 2 to 3 years, well, then it's gravy that fourth year, and anything I spend that fourth year is well worth it. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to be bold, man, because it's not going to come easy. You got to get lucky and score on draft picks like I guess they already did with Embiid and Maxey, so forth. And then you got to go in, and they're putting their chips in, and then we'll see what happens. So I like it.
Yeah, I do too. Having Oubre and Drummond, Oubre he can play versatile situations. He's a guy that can guard. He's athletic enough to defend. Drummond, same thing. He's a presence there. He's not the answer, but it's nice to have a backup with that kind of size and experience. So I think that they put some stuff together. I don't know if they're done or if they have any money left to pick up any other types of picks, but I think they're in a great situation. It'll be fun to watch Embiid and Maxey and Paul on the floor at the same time. But defensively, they've just gotten way better, just way better. And with Embiid key thing for him is being healthy. But with George and Oubre and Maxey has certainly shown that he's capable of playing in this league at a high level. So it's a good move. My doubts were more about the family than they were about whether this would fit basketball-wise, because I think everything about it is just screaming, hey, we're going to go compete. And now they've got a piece. And we used to talk about the East maybe being not quite what the West was and so forth, but these kind of drafts and these kind of free agency changes things a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out and falls out in terms of the competitiveness of both leagues. But I'm excited, and I am good for that, buddy. So we maybe we'll supersize something for you.
Klay Thompson's name is out there, and he's been linked to so many contenders. The Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, the Orlando Magic, the Lakers, and he's been mentioned in a potential sign and trade that the Warriors are willing to do that. So people you think might not have the money for him, maybe the sign and trade could make it happen. How much does he have left, and where could he really make a difference as opposed to go and hit some shots and make some money and be entertaining, but not be in the discussion at the end of the season?
Do you think that he'd want to go back to the Lakers? I mean, he grew up around his dad. His dad's there, obviously, and he has a brother playing professional baseball. I'm not sure where he's playing right now. Is he down in Southern California as well? Clay's brother? I can't remember. But
I think it was back east. He's been bouncing around. I think the last I saw was White Sox.
Okay. So anyway, I think any of those places would fit. But, I mean, as long as he doesn't have to have the responsibility of carrying a team where there's not that kind of pressure and he come in and play, 20, 24 minutes, whatever, I think he's still got gas in the tank, man. And, it's one of those things that there's been so much chaos with the Warriors and personalities and issues. And that was, obviously Klay kind of losing his touch and not shooting the ball like he had. But I think he gets in the right spot. I think Klay has something to offer. Besides the fact that he has so much experience, there's a maturity there. And I think when you go to a new spot and you have a new opportunity, I think it can work. He's not going to be expected to play 38 minutes and guard the best offensive player in the team. Those are responsibilities he's had in the past. He's not going to have that. He's going to have an opportunity to come in and off the bench and put himself in a situation where he'll space the floor really well for him. And one, shooting slumps come and go for everybody. I don't care what level. And I think a new and a fresh start and not nearly as much pressure is kind of will get him relaxed, and he might surprise a lot of people. All of a sudden he's 16, 18 a game and either coming off the bench or playing 25 minutes could help somebody really take the next step. And all those teams you mentioned could benefit from that. I just thought I was kind of curious. I thought, I wonder if he'd like to go back to LA because he spent a lot of his time there in Southern California. I don't have any idea where he's going to end up, but I think he has enough to help a team. He doesn't have to carry them. And I've watched him play too much and just following him with the Warriors and being in Northern California. I would never give up on Klay Thompson unless he just had a serious injury. I like the fact that he's got another chance, and if it's a couple-year contract, whatever it ends up being, that boy has a serious heart and competitiveness. And I know it's probably his confidence and everything's been shook, and he kind of starting to question things about his own life. But I think this is a new start for him, fresh start for him, and I'm excited to see where he'll go and the contribution. I think he's going to surprise people. I think he has still plenty left. Not that he can play 40 minutes or 30 minutes, because I don't think he can, but playing 20 minutes a game and spacing the floor for whatever team that is, I think he has great value in that way.
What do you have to get back in any deal with marketing?
Oh, man. I mean, we talked about this on the show the other night, and we talked about patience, and I think, the Jazz have demonstrated patience here. I've got to be careful what I say, right? But I just don't see Markkanen leaving. Is there a trade out there for him? I'm not sure what it is. He still has value here, and the idea that he's not going to be a part of this would really, really surprise me. I think when you look at where the Jazz are, and with now we've got three young players again that probably aren't going to make an immediate contribution, but a year from now they're either going to be with the club or maybe be traded or whatever the circumstances are going to be. I don't think you take your best guy right now. I think if you're going to be patient, let's just be patient. Let's see what happens a year from now. And the picks that we've talked about the Jazz picks, and I think the strength of the draft that they had. And I mean, who would have thought that they'd corral in what 3, 4, 5 months ago was the number one draft pick, in the NBA. And he's obviously fallen for some grace, and he's not played nearly as well as a lot of people thought. But I think when you look at their draft, and it was just so good that I think you hold pat, stay patient, and then next year you make some decisions based upon the quality of that draft, which is supposed to be better. And then you have to make some decisions. Is Keontae George going to be our point guard? Or, who's that going to be, and how these things play out. So I don't like the idea of trying to trade Markkanen right now when you've got so many young people there. Let this thing play out. If Markkanen is someone they want to trade the following year and they're more apt to get – it's a stronger draft, it puts them in a situation that – they can probably afford to make that move based upon a stronger draft and all the picks that they have to maybe replace him. But I just don't like the idea of doing that right now. Now, a week from now, we're going to be on the phone together. What do you think about Markkanen now playing for Orlando or whatever the circumstances might be? I just don't like it. I just think one more year. You're going to stay patient, and you're going to do all of this that you've been doing, and this has all been part of the master plan. Stick with the master plan, and then make the big haul next year and see if you can really get the Jazz in a position to be a playoff team again.
But, number one, I want a steak for free. And number two, maybe that is patience, though. Maybe that really is what patience looks like. If you trade Markkanen, the rebuild stretches out longer. But if you keep Markkanen, he is good enough, and we've seen this the last 2 years, you will end up drafting the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. If you trade him, you'll be in the top 5. Depending on how the lottery goes, you could be 1, 2, or 3. And there's supposed to be generational talent at the top of the draft, and there are Jazz fans who are pretty frustrated, and maybe there's Jazz management too, although they've kept it a little closer to the vest. Maybe they're frustrated they've drafted 10th instead of 5th or 3rd or 1st. So if you want to move up in what is supposed to be a great draft, Markkanen is good enough to stand in the way of doing that, and so maybe you have to trade and then be patient that, the rebuild's going to stretch out longer. But if you get the right guy and you ride him for a decade, older Jazz fans have seen that happen. They're like, yeah, that was awesome.
Well, I agree with you on the generational talent because there are going to be individuals there, and I'm not savvy enough and smart enough yet right now to really know and understand, haven't spent the time to see what that draft would look like. But I do believe that them not doing anything this year, and I can't imagine anything happening with Markkanen this year, but I see your point, and it'd have to be generational talent. And I don't know if they want to wait another 2 or 3 years for generational talent. It's probably the fan base is a little more impatient than maybe the administration for the Jazz. But I like the path they're on. That one of the things is I kind of studied the draft and looked at, the different scenarios. I just believe – I kind of thought maybe at the end of the summer that the Jazz find somebody that they really like and a disgruntled NBA guy that's a star that wants to be traded. I'm just not sure I'm seeing that or hearing about that. But I do like the way they're going about this. And I think the one thing that the Jazz management has done is they've informed the fan base. There's no surprise is here. There should be nothing surprising about this draft other than the fact they got 3 great picks. And again, we don't know. That's probably not generational talent, but there's no question in my mind that these guys could play a role in that rebuild quicker than maybe some. So I just don't think it was wise right now, but I get your point. And if they could get a generational talent, I'm not sure who they are. And until I kind of wrap my arms and figure out who that all is as we prepare for next year's draft, I think the Jazz have to be really happy. The fans have to be really happy what's happened. It's going to be exciting to watch what happens. It'll be exciting to see what happens with the younger players in the draft. And who knows, a year from now, we might have a point guard that we love, and then maybe that is Keontae George, and everybody else needs to go to the side, and they're tradable. We'll just have to see. But I just go back to, let's just take a deep breath, kind of step back, let this thing unfold, and trust in the management. And going forward, I think the Jazz are going to be better 2 years from now. So I agree with you that if there's generational talent there and they can get Markkanen to be a big piece of that trade, then, yeah, that probably would make sense. But, again, you have just a amazing fan base. And they're probably looking around and going, hey, how long are we going to have to be patient with this?
They are. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, how much longer are we going to have to wait for something really cool to happen here? And so you got to deal with that. And I think a lot of those problems will be resolved next year with the draft, with trades, free agency. I think we're going to see the management take a step forward and make this a better team where year in and year out, that you're always in. Right now, being in the top 10 would be good enough maybe next year to be in that spot, to get it to the playoffs in some form, and eventually 2 or 3 years down that road with generational talent, now you're competing for 1 to 6 spots, and you're becoming relevant again in the league. And right now they haven't been relevant, but I trust in that management, trust in what they're doing, and the community just has to be a little more patient. Let's give this thing 12 more months before we all kind of lose our minds.
Quick update. Harris is going to be with Detroit, so he'll be gone. But give us a real quick assessment of Filipowski to the Jazz.
Well, I didn't know a lot about him until that night. And we talked a lot about Cody Williams, and we talked about Isaiah Collier. Getting a 6'11" guy, 230 pounds, who played at Duke, which is obviously speaks for itself. Everybody says that he can shoot it, he can dribble it. He's versatile, and at times he played really well in the ACC. He was inconsistent as a shooter, and he doesn't have a real physicality to his game yet, and he's not really a rim protector either. But again, we're talking about younger players developing. This young man can provide offense. He's talented in that way. And there were times during the year where he carried Duke, and he hasn't. The key thing, he hasn't had a presence defensively. And I know everybody wants to look at that because you got to be able to. It seems like you got to be able to do one thing really well when you come in that you can offer. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that, but the Jazz brought him in for a workout, and he's got legitimate perimeter skills. He's got a good feel for the game, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, you got to love all three of these picks because there's an upside to all of them. And anytime you're coming out of Duke, you know that you've been in an institution where the intangibles are important, where the whole chemistry of that organization and that's gone on for years and years is still there. And so getting a really grounded, great young man, good human being that comes in that has those kind of skills. Anytime there's an upside offensively and he already can shoot it, I mean, we talk about, we're going to turn him into a shooter. That doesn't happen that often, where guys that can't shoot all of a sudden figure out how to shoot down the road. It does happen over time, but this is a young man that already has the difficult things to do. The weight room, the strength and conditioning, those will be the things that help him get more pounds on his body and become a better defender. But it's a good get.
Steve, we appreciate it as always. PK probably appreciates it a little more than as always. He'll have a steak sandwich and a steak sandwich and put it on the Underhills bill.
PK,
yeah.
You find the golf course, get the foursome, and I'll feed everybody there.
Pebble Beach, here we come.
No. We'll stay somewhere in the public golf range in Utah County or northern Utah County.
Okay. All right, you got it.
All right, guys.
All right, thanks, Steve.
See you. Bye-bye.
When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.